Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Hey Bronco Nation, this is Boise State football wide receiver Ben Ford. I've had to face some setbacks on the field this past season, but toughness isn't about staying down. It's about getting back up. I am proud to represent Lithia Ford of Boise, where you can find the largest selection of Ford trucks that are built tough and, like me, handle the hits and keep pushing forward. Come check out the incredible inventory and competitive pricing at Lithia Ford of Boise. And when you buy here, you're not just getting a truck, you're supporting Boise State athletics and Lithia Ford NIL partnerships. Come see us at Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circa Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
Good evening, everybody. You are in the Sun Cruiser Studio on another night in the Mountain West on Tuesday, February 24th. 4 games in the books. Let's give Sun Cruiser a shout out. Appreciate them being here with us. And, of course, as I always do, give a subscription to the show here at Mountain West BNN on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to, let's see, we just wrapped up the big game of the night, Nevada. As I said, as I just tweeted out, same recipe that they followed on Saturday night when they got by Utah State in the second half after being, I don't want to really say outplayed, but trailing for 30-plus minutes. And they just hang around, and then make the plays down a stretch. Games are 40 minutes. They take the mindset and attitude of their coach. But I'm going to break that down a little bit. I'm going to do what I did Saturday. Just so happens that both sets Saturday tonight, maybe even this coming Saturday too. Nevada's the late game at home. They're not on Saturday. They're in Vegas. But both the last night and tonight with them at home. Want to wait for their fans to shuffle in here. So, Lobo fans, if you're here, you're going to have to wait a little bit. I'm going to hit the other games first and then hit that game last to allow some of the Nevada fans that were at Lawler and enjoying that filing out of the arena there to get here in front of the screen. And we'll talk about some of the other stuff that we saw tonight. And then at the end, we'll look ahead to the 2 big games tomorrow. So let's talk. So if you had The first game that I was going to discuss tonight being San Jose State and Air Force, you probably could have cast a very large long shot wager on that. But I'm actually going to start with that, mainly for two reasons. It'll be quick, but also actually watched a few minutes of it. Now, the reason I did that is twofold. One, it was a close game with a few minutes left. And two, the Mountain West Network, although it could have been CSU's feed, had some issues with their broadcast of the Fresno-Colorado State game, which was frustrating. Probably missed about 10 minutes of it in the second half. I'm not exactly sure when it came back on. I think I went to it with about 3 left. I'd really kind of given up and then saw somebody tweet out that it was back. So I went back to it, but I was disgusted by that point. I had already kind of switched to the other game because Boise was winding down. But nonetheless, it was a close game, and I wanted to give it a few minutes. And look, and I'll just put these up here for a second, clearly for various reasons. Haven't talked Air Force much on here, but this was their best chance for a win. It was always going to be all season, period, but it certainly played out that way. Fortunately for San Jose State, they had a couple guys back that they didn't have recently. Also, fortunately for them, is Myers decided to go Steph Curry tonight, channeling some of that Northern California magic as he went for 34, as you can see on the screen, 8 of 9 from 3, also had 7 boards, and he's like a wing guard forward type of guy. He's not even an inside post player. So nice job by Myers tonight. Look at the minutes again for Miles guys, 38, 37, 39 for those 3 at the top. Washington hasn't played much in this calendar year. He played 33 minutes tonight. Ganga, 23. Mupa Daly, that might be a guy that UNLV wants to get the transfer out there. He had 4 fouls again. That guy leads the nation in fouls per minute. I think he's slightly ahead of Stephen and Hamilton for UNLV. And then Overstreet and Langford. So Miles had a few more guys available tonight, and he needed it because Air Force shot over 50% from the floor. They went 1.2 points per possession. They scored 80 points. I mean, they certainly don't do that a lot. Hoban and Sanders were the big ones for them, but it was a 1-point game with a few minutes left. But every time the Falcons would make a shot, the Spartans would respond. I mean, oftentimes it was Myers, but credit San Jose State. I'm sure, look, everybody knows the deal. You don't want to be the team that loses to Air Force. They're historically bad, unfortunately. You don't want to be the team that loses to them. And San Jose State was up against it for large parts of the second half. They made just enough shots to get over the line. They shot 13 of 24 from 3, and 17 of 19 from the foul line. So that's kind of what did it for them. Good job by them. Air Force now, their last 3. I don't know exactly where they are. I know they play Grand Canyon, Nevada, and Wyoming. And I think it's at Wyoming, home Grand Canyon, and at Nevada. And I really don't know how they would get any of those 3. And they're staring 0-20 in the face, unfortunately. Credit to them for playing hard tonight and being in the game for 40 minutes. It's the first time they've covered a point spread in the calendar year of 2026, which is absolutely wild. Which, forget about the point spread aspect. They've gotten blown out in every game. Their point spreads are absurd. Now, tonight's wasn't because it was at home, and San Jose State's not very good either. But they've just been getting smoked in every game. So credit to them. Haven't talked about them much, but they hung in there tonight. We'll see what they do here for the last 2 weeks to wrap up the season. Okay, the other 2 early. I'll talk about the Boise, Wyoming game here for a little bit. Let me put this up. I guess okay, there we go. 72-62 was the final up in Boise. Look, tale of 2 halves here. Honestly, Wyoming controlled. Oh, I didn't put it on. Wyoming controlled the first half. They did. And it wasn't that they shot the ball super well. They just kind of did the little things well, much the way they did Saturday when they won the game in Phoenix against the Lobos. They just kind of won possessions. They didn't go on huge runs. They didn't do anything spectacularly well. It was just this doing well, doing this well, doing this better than their opponent, and doing this better than their opponent. And then in the last 2 minutes, Boise just kind of I don't want to say they clicked another gear, but really it kind of happened by accident. And the announcers kind of called it too. They said, we got to play a little bit faster here. And sure enough, it's almost like they fell into it by accident. They played faster due to like time. End of the half, they're playing bad. They want to get their locker room, want to extend and get a few more possessions out of it. Attack the rim, attack and kick. And then, of course, the prayer at the buzzer for three. I think it was banked in. I can't remember anymore, even though it was only a couple hours ago. But I think they banked it in. So they went on a 7-0 run like in a minute. And even though they weren't always in the game, it's not like it was a 10, 12-point game and they were getting blown out. But they were trailing the whole half. And again, that's what Wyoming did to Grand Canyon on Saturday. So they had to feel very comfortable there. They won that game on the road. No reason they couldn't win this game on the road. It wasn't a massive, loud crowd. I mean, there were pockets of it that were loud, I'm sure, right? But the Cowboys had it where they wanted it. And then the end of the half really broke their back. You could just kind of sense it. Sundance kind of maybe knew it. Didn't mean that they weren't going to make adjustments and come out and play hard in the second half, but they kind of had their chance to have that 5, 6, 7-point lead and put pressure on Boise to the point where, all right, now you guys have to play a near perfect half or we have to play very poor. Now you give Boise the lead. They're playing with, they go into the halftime now feeling great. Like, man, we really stole one there. Wyoming gets the first bucket. And then after that, Boise really kind of took control of the game in the paint. I kept the stats up there for too long. Let me take them off, but I want to read a few things. Points in the paint. So Wyoming did get to 28, 36 for Boise, so half their points were in the paint. They didn't shoot. Neither team shot the ball well from deep. 5 for 21 for the Broncos, 7 for 26 for the Cowboys. I will say for the Cowboys, Dennis was really good again, 16. Meyer had 12 and 7. You'll take that every night out. But Walker, and he was bad tonight. I mean, we all know he was bad. You look at his stats, he was 2 for 14 in 34 minutes. He scored 8 points. Like, tonight factors into my thinking about this, but he's been a disappointment for me. Like, he's been a disappointment. Doesn't mean that he hasn't had like decent games here and there, but I find myself like, I don't stare at the stats, right? Like during the game. And oftentimes, for whatever reason it is, Wyoming's games seem to be like during another game. Tonight it was during 2 other games. And the announcers kept saying how poorly he was shooting, but other nights too. It seems like much of the last month when I come in here and open the box score up, Walker's got 8, 9 points. And again, he's not playing poorly, although he played poorly tonight. But he was a guy who was highly touted for them, right? Now, he didn't come in with the Dylan Andrews pedigree from a UCLA. Came from FAU. He was at a smaller school before FAU. But, on my pod in the last spring, in the summer, in the fall, the national guys that I had on, your Kevin Sweeney's and Matt Cox from 3-Man Weave, those guys, when I asked for names from some of the bottom half teams, Walker was a guy that stood out for both of those guys as someone to watch, right? Because I don't watch these guys at their other schools, 95% of them. I don't know Leland Walker from Demarion Dennis, right? These guys do. They watch, and they touted Walker as like a really good piece for Sundance. And I got to say, like, I've been a little disappointed in him. I'd have to go back and look at his stats and all of that stuff, but it just seems to me he has not had a very good second half of the conference slate here. And Wyoming hasn't played poorly during that. If they'd be getting anything what they expected or other people expected out of Walker, like they could have another win or two at least on this slate. And, so it's frustrating and disappointing, especially when you consider that on top of the fact that they're missing several guys. Like Gores was their best, most explosive inside player a while ago, and now he's been out for the last 3 weeks. So it's just they just don't have enough weapons offensively, and I mean that's what they're kind of tapped out at what they can achieve, especially when they have guys injured and one of their, in theory, go-to guys is banged up. So it's unfortunate. But let's flip on the other side of the coin here. Nice job by Boise. Let me look at what their numbers showed. Andrews, very efficient tonight, 20 points on only 9 field goals. He's had plenty of games this year where he's taken, in the teens, mid-teens, even high teens in field goal attempts. He only took 9 tonight. They balanced it out. Meadow got 9. I've always been calling for him to get more than the 4 that he seems to average. Fielder and Buchanan, 6 for 10 and 7 for 10 respectively. So you go 20 for Andrews, 18 for Fielder, and 17 for Buchanan. That's pretty good balance. Meadow with 10. The only starter who didn't get in double figures, Carmichael, got hurt. Now, I think he came back in for a minute or two, so it doesn't seem to be too bad. Clearly, he's not shooting the ball and playing with great confidence offensively right now, but you got 4 starters in double figures and you hold your opponent to 62, you're going to win like 9 out of 10 times, if not like 19 out of 20 times. Okay. Didn't get a ton from the bench. Aaron, Perrell, and Keene. I mean, what did they combine for 7 points? But Keene had 9 rebounds, Perrell 5 rebounds, Keene 4 assists. So, Keene off the bench, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and his usual good defense. So good job by Boise doing what they needed to do here. Second win in a row. I have to recall what they have. I know they have the game. It's not this weekend. They have a game yet at home against San Diego State. So next week, they're at home San Diego State and at Moby to finish against Colorado State. I don't know who they have this weekend. I'll have to check in the comments in a minute. But look, those, they have winnable games from here on out, right? Give them some confidence, improve their seeding heading into the conference tournament. And this was a game for that, for seeding, for confidence purposes, all of that stuff. And Boise, look, we knew it. Well, let me rephrase that. I had my doubts, okay, after the UNLV loss and the way they kind of didn't put up massive resistance in the second half against Utah State a week ago. I wasn't sure how much buy-in they would have. So I will say it's credit to them. Now, it shouldn't be completely shocking. Leon's been around. I don't know going back to his first handful of years, but I doubt he's had many teams quit on him, right? So he's been around. There's enough solid help on his staff there. There's enough leadership there seems to be. Maybe not everybody, but enough leadership there that they do seem to have pieces to kind of keep plugging along, even when some disappointment sets in, like after the UNLV game, and then after you get beat against Utah State, the way you get beat like that. So, credit to them. Obviously, the Saturday win isn't much to hang your hat on against San Jose State, but this was a good win. It's at home. It's against a team you're near in the standings. They had just come off their best win of the Sundance era in Phoenix. So they're playing with confidence. They weren't afraid to go up there and play you, right? They certainly wanted to show better than they did when they got blasted by you at their place a month ago. And so, or longer than that. And so you rose up to the challenge. You played a 40-minute game and you got the job done. So good job by Leon and his crew to get themselves that W. All right, let's hit on the third game there early. Then I'll run through the comments, and then I'll get to the big one late here. Sure, we'll have some Nevada fans rolling in after they exit Lawler. Okay, the Fresno CSU game was similar, not completely exact, but similar to the Boise game in that the road underdog got out pretty early to a lead. Fresno's was a bigger lead, and then the home team just kind of chips away. Fresno was out by double figures in the first half. They got up by 12. CSU did not look smooth. They were, I don't want to say forcing shots, but Fresno was all over them. Rams weren't hitting, and Fresno was, they were aggressive defensively, and the Rams were not. So I think it was 34-22 at one point. The Rams really closed with a flourish, and they got it to 6 at the half, and that was with like a late buzzer-beating bucket by Fresno because the Rams had it to 4. And so there we go. Oh, it was 39-32. I thought it was 33. Maybe they took a point away at some point there, and I wasn't paying attention. But anyway, so 39-32, Fresno at the half. If we look at the numbers, both teams shoot over almost 50%. Rams still not shooting it well from 3, 9 for 29 tonight. So if they're going to shoot 9 for 29 from 3, you'll take that as an opposing defense, right? You will take that, okay? That's something that, you just don't want them shooting up into the 40s. That's 31%. You'll take that every night out. Neither team turned it over. It was even on the boards. Point paints and bench points, slight edge to Fresno. Now, the key thing that happened here in this game was Collins leaving with an injury, okay? You look at his stat line. He had 6 points, 2 for 4, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 17 minutes. It doesn't pop off the page like massive numbers, right? But when he went down, I've said it before. To me, he's one of the most, if not the most valuable player in the conference, most important player. Okay. He goes out and now they're not a top 5 team, but when he is in the lineup, they can play with anybody, right? They just had New Mexico down 20 4 days ago in Fresno, 3 days ago, I guess. They were up 12 on the road here against the CSU team that's now won 6 in a row, right? When Collins is in the lineup and Hydrator, they need Hydrator too, and Gorey, who's now like all of a sudden he's going to be like an all-league player. He won't be first team. I don't even remember what they do anymore, but he should definitely be a third-team all-conference guy. He had 20. I know I'm going off on a tangent here. 23, 7 and 4, 10 for 16 from the floor. He's a legit dude, and the more you watch him, the more it's unfortunate that you just realize like he won't be in a Fresno uniform next year. I hate to say it. I just don't see how it happens. Like people are paid by other schools to identify players that can play. And I'm sure there are people from schools all over the place watching Deshaun Gorey play as a true freshman and saying, well, we missed on this guy as a high school recruit, but we're not going to miss on him now. And that's the unfortunate thing about the system that we have today. Years ago, this would have been like freaking holy cow. Like, this is awesome for Fresno to get this guy and have this guy for 3 years, maybe 4, right? But now it's like it's like 10% chance that Gorey stays, right? Because Fresno cannot match financially what is going to be thrown at Gorey. And you can't blame Gorey for doing that, right? I don't know if this guy has an NBA future. He's a very good college player. He's a good college player right now. He will be a very good college player. I don't know if he fits the NBA mold or not because I don't watch that. But like you can't take issue with a guy taking a bag, as you guys would say these days, to go play in college for a year or two. And it's just unfortunate because I love watching him, and he's grown and improved as the season's going on. But anyway, when they have a full lineup, like they can compete with anybody. So Collins goes out, and it just doesn't happen. Like the backup Reber, he is not. He is what he is. He's a backup point guard on a below 500 team. So he's just not there. And the other guy, Urbano, same thing. Like these are guys that they're just a piece short, I guess, right? Or more than a piece short. But you take one of your best players off the floor, that's what happens. Okay. Hydrator 11 and 7, Wilson Jock 7 and 8, but only 3 of 10. So the Rams beat it up a little bit. Second half, credit them for that. 5 starters in double figures for CSU, complete balance. Booth 11, Rechsteiner 16, Butler, Jorgensen 11, Muniz 15. Jevin had 5 assists too. He had 3 turnovers, but they were all in the first 5 minutes. He got off to a sluggish start, and then he really kind of kicked it into gear. He's been their best player for the last month. Butler only 3 of 10, Rechsteiner 6 of 11 with 4 threes. Booth 9 rebounds to go to his 11 points. So a really good last 10 minutes for Colorado State. I know Collins was out, but they won the game on both ends of the floor. They made some big shots. Good win when you're down 10 at home. And I will say this too. I know it hasn't exactly been against teams 1 through 6, okay? But that's 6 wins in a row for the Rams. 6 wins in a row. It's very difficult to win 6 games in a row. Ask Boise. Ask Grand Canyon. They've had good wins, and then they've mixed in a curious loss. A loss that that's why it's very difficult to go down a team schedule and say win, loss, win, loss. It doesn't work like that, right? These are 1-game events, and weird things happen, okay? So I don't care who you're playing. It's difficult to win 6 games in a row. So massive, especially when you were 3 and 8 before that. If you're Utah State and you're 7 and 2, yeah, fine. Okay, you can win 6 in a row. You're better than everybody. Okay, still doesn't mean it's easy, but you can at least see that happening. When you're 3 and 8, like CSU was, right? Like nobody expects you to win 6 in a row. Now it's not like they played Air Force twice and San Jose State twice. I know they beat Air Force once in there. I'm sure there was a San Jose State win in there too. That's 2, but that's 4 other wins in a row. And you're mixing road games in there. They beat San Diego State the other night. So like credit to Ali. A lot of people, I wouldn't say questioning him, but just saying, well, it's his first year, and I was among them. He'll figure it out. He was taking some heat. They weren't maximizing what they had a month ago, and now they've yet to lose in February. And so they have 3 tough games left, right? I have to exactly look. I know I said earlier they finish at home with Boise. They go to the Pit next Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm not sure what this weekend's game is for them. You can tell I don't know the weekend games yet, but I know Nevada, UNLV, and I know New Mexico and San Diego State. I think that's all I know. But anyway, look, they're like I said on the last show, I'd like to see them in a postseason tournament, right? It's not going to be the big dance unless they get hot for 4 days in Vegas. They need Pasquarelli back, but I like to see these guys play in the NIT. The problem is going to be with the number of bids to the big dance that we are not going to get. There's going to be lots of teams that are on the offer here for NIT bids. We'll see who wants them and who doesn't, and all that stuff. But I hate to see CSU get left out because in past years, this team is worthy of an NIT bid. So credit to coach, his staff, the players. Hope Collins is all right. I don't want to see him missing games, right? I like watching him play. He's been around forever. He's had an up and down career. Clearly, he's been involved in some stuff that is not super, but by all accounts, this year he's been good. He's been playing with a lot of freshmen, stuck around when he could have bailed like everybody else. May not have had the options that other people had, but they were bad last year. He's got a bunch of new guys coming in, and he stuck around. He's been a big part of their success that they've had this year. I hope he's healthy and able to play for the last couple weeks, whoever they have left, and I want to see him out there. So anyway, okay, let me hit some comments, and then I will get to the game in Lawler. D-Rex. Yeah, that's kind of, and listen, this, I don't mean this to talk down about our teams and our conference, because you guys know I love this conference as much as anybody, right? You guys love your teams. I love the conference, and I find it difficult to root for teams here, even though it would have suited us better tonight for New Mexico to beat Nevada, right? Like I'm not openly rooting for New Mexico in the game. I want to see it play out. And to be honest, like think about it. What you root for doesn't matter. It doesn't have any impact on what happens in the game, right? Like the game's going to play out the way that the game's going to play out, whether or not you root or not. I know people are superstitious, and some, I've been that way too. Turn it off, turn it on, do this, and that's fine. But like it does no good to do that. It's not going to change what happens. They're playing out there. You're here, wherever you are watching the game. And so, would have been better for New Mexico to win. This hurts for the conference getting bids. But I root for these teams. But I just like the games tonight were indicative, and really the last weekish. And to your point, D-Rex, where you say that the teams were bound to lose some tough road games, it's just and we all knew this from the start of the year, our teams just are not as good as they were last year. They're just not. They're not. And that goes for pretty much everybody. Okay. Maybe the exception being Utah State. And then I guess, of course, you could say Wyoming is too, right? Well, I keep adding teams here. Nevada's a little better because they were poor last year, but Nevada and Wyoming were poor last year. But the other teams at the top, they're just not. And you watch the games, and the level of play is just not where it's been the last few years. Even all of the games today, the Boise, Wyoming first half, the CSU, Fresno first half, clearly the New Mexico, Nevada first half. I mean, I'll talk about that more in a second, but you watch them, and yeah, do we have guys that can play a little bit out there? We do, but all of our teams are a player short. They're a guy at this position short. They're just not quite what we're used to seeing the last couple of years. And I mean, look, we should all understand that's a byproduct of the system where we can't afford. It's like a salary cap, right? And the Big Ten and SEC and Big 12, those schools have a $15 million salary cap, and the Mountain West schools have a $1 million salary cap, right? So it will be like playing like one of your fantasy sport lineups, and your opponent, well, not your opponent, but other people can create lineups that can get 10 times the players that you can because they have more money to spend. So it is what it is. And we got to do it different ways by out coaching people and all that stuff. But in conference play, it's just, we're just cannibalizing ourselves. So it's unfortunate. I shouldn't be surprised. Thought it would happen before the season. Hopeful that it wouldn't have, but here we are. Jordan thinks that New Mexico is the kind of team that gets in the NCAA tournament that gets blown out. Well, it's funny. Like I said that a week or two ago that I don't think they could beat any Power 4 teams. Now, maybe, depending on a matchup, I said if there's a poorly coached one, and I'd have to think of an example that they could maybe beat them. But yeah, I don't think they can beat anybody. Jake, I did get a haircut today. We had a snow day, virtual day, so I got to play a little, take a nap to stay up late, not be tired. I'm refreshed, got a haircut. Appreciate you noticing, Jake. Okay. Larry, not happy with Bouillon. Stop acting like Bouillon's an irreplaceable player. He certainly has hit a freshman wall, and he's not really a freshman because he's 23. But I think the fact is about Bouillon, Larry, is that the book is out on him, as they would say, right? As they used to say in baseball terms, right? The book is out on what pitches you can throw Bouillon and what pitches to not throw Bouillon, right? If he was Pedro Serrano in Major League, you want to stop throwing him the fastball and start throwing him that curveball because he's going to swing and miss every single time, right? And Bouillon, the book is out on him, and he's struggling. And now he seems to be losing confidence, unfortunately. And I'll get to the stats on that game in a minute. Nick, going back to your Spartans there, Myers, he's been on fire. You're right. I noticed a couple games where he's completely lighting it up. So good for him. I know he missed some games earlier too. He certainly wasn't immune to the Spartan curse this year of missing games. Mike, that massive 4 days for Nevada. Like here's the funny thing. Look at how sports is. A week ago tonight, they lost to San Jose State. Okay. And they were coming off the loss to San Diego State, and they were completely done for an at-large and completely given up on by their fans and anybody else. And that was as poor a game as you've really seen under Alford for a long time. Now, maybe there was one or two last year when they started to go in a tank. Maybe it was Washington State, or who was the other game that they lost at home? Loyola Marymount, or there was somebody else early around that Washington State game that they lost in a non-con. That was awful. But they looked poor in that game against San Jose State. And now in 4 days, from Saturday to Tuesday, they knock off both Utah State and New Mexico. So it's funny how sports is, right? And that's just why we love it, Let's see. Yeah. Oh, so Jordan, you guys got in Walker's head. Yeah. Look, he wasn't even close then in the second half. Like the shots he was taking, like they weren't even close. Like normally guys take these shots so many times. It's what we call muscle memory. People think, well, how can Curry make those shots from that? Because he's taken 8 million of them, and his body knows exactly how much juice to throw on it from 30 feet, right? And these guys haven't taken as many shots as Steph Curry, but the muscle memory is there. And so if they miss, it's for one of two reasons. They're either a hair long or a hair short because their legs are tired, or the shot's altered by a defender right in their face. Walker was like off to the side. He wasn't even close. So maybe the crowd got in him a little bit. I don't know, but he was bad tonight. Yeah, Nevada might never lose again, Vargs. It's certainly possible. Nick thinks Garland hasn't received enough love as a player. Yeah, I mean, part of that is it's an unfortunate thing when you're like, because Omari Moore did a few years ago for San Jose State, but that year the Spartans, can't remember if they got the 4 seed or the 5 seed. I think they were the 5, but they played in a 4-5 game. So they were one of the top teams in the conference. They got a bye. They didn't even play in the prelim round on Wednesday. They knocked off Nevada in the quarterfinals, lost to San Diego State in the semis. They weren't competitive, but they were on a bigger stage. They were beating teams that year. Miles, I think, was coach of the year. More was player of the year. You'll get that when you're a top 5 team in a good conference. They're going to finish 11th this year in a mid-major. We're a mid-major this year. We haven't been a mid-major the last few years. we're a mid-major this year, and that's why we're going to get 1 or 2 bids. And, it is what it is, right? Am I disappointed? Sure. Is it the end of the world? It's not. But that's why. Like, Garland's been good, but, he missed a few games. Nobody's watching their games. I hate to say it. That's right, Steinbauer. Yeah, ask for that. I don't know if it's, they have those posters in there when you go get your haircut of the models. They're not going to have me up there, but you can ask them for that. Yeah. So you can ask for that. Yeah, I agree, Jake. It's wide open. It is absolutely wide open. And, a lot of it's going to depend on matchups, and a lot of it's going to depend on who's playing, obviously who gets hot, right? Who gets hot. So I don't know. Yeah. So Jer, I guess, let me talk about the game, and then I will address, I got through half the comments. You guys keep firing them off. I'll get to them, I promise. But let me talk about the game, because the free throw shooting, again, I guess it was, so that's what? Is that 2 games in a row? That 2 losses in a row where the free throw shooting really hurt? Yeah, I don't think it's coaching so much. Like, look, here's one of the things that I've learned. I can't remember what player it was recently. Somebody was in a shooting slump, and one of the announcers, and it might have even been Dick Al, one of the announcers basically said, like, what do you do when a guy is in a shooting slump? Okay. Do you keep pointing stuff out to him? And I'll never forget, like, when I was coaching, we had like one of your pure shooters, and like he was in just the worst slump. And like, this is a guy who would just bury 3 after 3 after 3 in practice, like when there was no pressure, but the lights went on and he was in a bad slump. And, myself and the other assistant coach and the players are all like thinking we're shot doctors, trying to tweak every little thing about his shot and correct this and watch his footwork and watch his release and watch his body weight and if he's off balance and all of that stuff, right? And finally, at some point, then the head coach kind of intervened, and he, in a stern way, I don't want to say yell, but in a stern way, he's like, everybody stop telling John how to shoot the ball. John knows how to shoot the ball. Like, and his point was like, let's stop like putting that stuff in his head. Now, he knew he was in a slump, but like he doesn't want to hear it over and over again, right? And so it's kind of that way with the foul line too. These guys shoot plenty of free throws, I'm sure, at practice, right? Jake Hall, and it wasn't really Hall tonight. It was Bouillon and Tannette that were the offenders. But, I'm sure Tannette shoots plenty of free throws and makes most of them in practice. And so, like, that's not really something that you're going to harp on a whole lot, because they have, now, if you're a poor free throw shooter, sure, in practice, when you can go and tweak something, like, that's fine. But the rest of it, I don't think you can pin that on the coaching. Now, it's an issue, right? Missing 1-and-1s hurts. Bouillon missing 2 in a row, it kills you, right? And I mean, how many times now have I been in here and I've said, well, X missed a 1, and not just New Mexico, but probably list off 5 teams. X missed free throws that led to Y, and Y ends up winning the game when it was a 1-possession game. Now, as the score would show here, right, this didn't end a 1-possession game. But as we all watched it, we all know that this was a 1-possession game. Okay, it was. Like, it was a nip and tuck game the whole way. Okay, it got stretched out in the last minute and a half, but this was a 1-possession game. And you look at the numbers, well, 12 for 21, that's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. And that includes a missed 1-and-1. If not, were there 2? I think maybe just 1 missed 1-and-1 from Tannette. You shoot 6 for 21 from 3, 21 for 55 from the floor. So you shoot 38, 29, and 57%. I don't even know how you only lost the game by 7 if you're a New Mexico fan. Like, I'll be honest with you. And I guess you only turned it over 13 times. You got out-rebounded 44-32. So you got out-rebounded 44-32. You shoot 38, 29, and 57% from the floor. Like, you really should have got smoked in this game. Like, I don't even know how you only lost by 7 looking at those numbers right there. That's not encouraging. And Gabe asked me before the game, Gabe said, what are your thoughts tonight? And I don't like making predictions, right? I don't like being wrong. And unless I have a very strong feeling on it, I don't like making predictions. I thought that they might be in a little bit of trouble. And I said, I trust New Mexico's offense more than Nevada's. Didn't mean I trust New Mexico's offense, especially on the road, but I trust their offense more than Nevada's. But I trust Nevada's defense right now more than I trust New Mexico's defense. Okay. But then I also added, I said the key thing was somebody other than Hall is going to have to make shots tonight for New Mexico. That's the one thing that I said. Somebody else is going to have to make shots tonight other than Hall. Now, Albury showed up. He didn't make any shots, but he showed up. He's played back-to-back really good games for the Lobos, okay? Attacking the rim, more under control. So that's the Albury that we'll take, right? He's not out of control. I guess I didn't expect to see that on his stats. It shows that he had 5 turnovers. So that's not super clearly, okay? I didn't expect to see that, but that's too many. 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 5 for 7 from the floor, 13 points in 31 minutes. I'll take that game for Albury. Obviously, you want less than 5 turnovers, but he did well. Hopped 0 for 5. Chol 0 for 4. So you scored as many as Chol did tonight, Jer, and everybody else in here. You had as many as Chol did. Bouillon 3 for 7. Now, he did have 12 rebounds, Larry, so you got to give him credit for that. He almost had half of your damn rebounds. 32 as a team. He got 12. Like, where's everybody else on the boards? Chol, 0 points and 2 rebounds in 21 minutes, okay? Hall 6 for 15, 3 for 6 from 3, 17 points. You'll take that. I mean, 6 for 15 is only 40% shooting, but still better than everybody else shot. Miller 1 for 3. He's like building brick houses. Tenet 4 for 12. Rock 2 for 2. Now, one of those was just a late prayer. You know, you can't really count that, but maybe he needs more minutes and more shots. 15 minutes, 4 boards. I know he had 3 fouls, so maybe it was a little bit of foul trouble, but maybe he needs more minutes. Somebody asked me early in the game because they started slow again, on Saturday against Fresno, and we're lucky to dig out of the hole. Tonight it was 10-2 again, a few minutes in, and then Nevada went completely blind for like 12 minutes of game action, or else it would have been worse. But someone said, like, you know, do we change the lineup? Who would you put out there? I mean, look, there's just not a lot of options. I hate to say it, but there aren't. And this is the ultimate problem here if you're a Lobo fan, okay? I've said this before. You've squeezed everything out of this lineup. There's just no options there to go to. Javis Miller is not a Mountain West Conference caliber player. Tenet is okay, all right? Tenet's okay. He's a backup point guard in the league. He's one of the better backup point guards in the league, but he's a backup in the league. He's a true freshman, okay? 1 for 6 from 3. I mean, 11 points, you'll take that on the road as a freshman, but it took him 12 shots to get there. We just saw Dylan Andrews a few minutes ago score 20 on 9 field goal attempts. Tenet, 11 field goal attempts, and 12 field goal attempts to get 11 points. So not super efficient. Okay, now he can give you minutes because he plays good defense. I get that, but there's just and when you're getting 2 points combined out of your wing and forward and Hopped and Chol, like, you just don't have enough pieces. This is what I said before. You're a player short. And you guys knew that in the offseason when you were kind of, some of you more than others, sounding the alarms on Olin's recruiting class, okay? And if you knew then how bad Chol was going to be, you really would have sounded the alarms because he was like a saving grace or so we thought, right? So you combine the fact that Chol has been a massive disappointment, Bouillon's in a slump. You know, Haupt, when he went for 30 that game, I don't even remember who it was against anymore. I think they lost. But when he went for 30 that night, I think it was against Boise, he probably doesn't have 30 combined in the game since then. I'll have to add that up. You don't have many paths to victories here, especially against good teams. So, you know, I hate to say it right now, you don't look like an NCAA tournament team. You don't. Now, you can rescue it, but you're probably going to have to win in Logan, right? Assuming you win on Saturday, and that's not going to be easy either. Like, you have the edge, you're at home, extra day of rest or extra day of prep as the Aztecs have tomorrow, and then they have to travel. So you have an edge there. You're at home. You know the crowd will be packed. Early afternoon CBS game. So you'll have the home court advantage. You have to win that game. You have to beat Colorado State, and you have to either try and win. Well, obviously you're going to try, but you have to win in Logan or make the finals at a conference tournament. But even if you do that, you're playing with the fate of the committee and what happens around the bubble with other teams. Okay. So I hate to say that. That's just my feelings on it. All right. Let's talk Nevada for a minute, and then I'll roll through some other comments. This was the same formula that they followed on Saturday against Utah State. As I said right at the top here, I don't want to say they were outplayed, but they were trailing for the through 30 plus minutes, right? And it's funny because for a second they'll show Alford, right? And I know, I'm sure some of you watching the game, fans or not, you're down 8, you're down 9. I don't know if the lead ever got to double figures, but it was certainly 7, 8, 9 at some points there towards the midway point of the second half. And they'll go to Alford like after a turnover or a missed shot or whatever, and he's just like calm as a cucumber, man. Like no emotion, no, not too high, not too low. He's not ranting and raving. He's just even keel, man. Just steady Eddie. And there's something to be said for that. Now, Olin's the same way. Don't get me wrong, okay? But Alford, his players take that from him. They don't panic. They don't try and get it all back at once. They don't do things they're not capable of doing. Doesn't mean they play perfect. They certainly didn't. But they don't panic when they get down. They didn't on Saturday, and they didn't tonight. And it's a big reason why they were able to get both of those W's, okay? Because they're playing and beating good teams here, well-coached teams. Calhoun and Olin, if not 1 and 2, are at the very top of the coaches in this conference, okay? There's a handful plus that are very good, right? I don't even know how to rank them. But those two, especially in-game, are at the top of the list, 100%, okay? And Alford just slow and steady, man, okay? Let's just chip away and win this possession and win this minute, and they do. I mean, that's that's what he preaches, right? Whether it's in timeouts or the locker room at halftime or practices or film or whatever it is, that's where coaching comes in, all right? Instead of, ranting and raving and getting after the officials, doesn't mean he doesn't do that at times, okay? But he doesn't panic and change things up. He just goes along and coaches, right? Look at that. The three amigos. Oh, wow. Look at this. I didn't even see this. Price, Camper, and Weems, 21, 20, and 20. And the rest of the team had 6 points combined. That is wild. That's wild. 21, 20, and 20. Price, Camper, and Weems. And then Comer 2, Armatrading 2, and Robinson 2. And nobody else had anything. Wow. Price, 21 and 12. 6 for 12. Camper 20 and 8 with 5 assists. Impressive. 6 of 16. Now, he only shot 1 of 7 from deep, but you scored 28 and 5. I think you're okay with that in 38 minutes. And Weems 20 and 6 boards, 8 of 13. Holy wow. Okay, I did not know that. Pack shoot 40%. They also shoot 29%. They made more free throws. They shot 1 more, but they made 4 more. That's a difference in the game. And again, they out-rebound them 44 to 32. That's a huge difference on the glass. Huge difference. Point paints even. Fast break points, slight edge to the Lobos. Of course, bench points, massive edge to the Lobos because of Tenet and Rock. So, listen, for Nevada, I mean, I know the announcer was saying it, but I guess he's paid to say that. Like they don't have a chance to win a conference, right? Like mathematically they do, I guess, but they don't have a chance. This was about now them getting that 4 seed, which they're in really, really good position to do. Okay, they're in really good position to do, which saves them their legs for a day, even though it would just be a walkthrough against Air Force. It saves them. Now their matchup against Grand Canyon, if it's Grand Canyon, is not going to be easy. Maybe it won't be GCU. There's plenty of games left. We'll see. If it is, they're similar teams. The Lobos outplayed them for 39 and a half minutes in Lawler a month ago. They don't play again. So GCU will feel confident there. As I said, Alfred does not have a great track record in the Mountain West Conference tournament. But look, both of those teams, I said they're similar in their style of play, but also they're just Jekyll and Hyde. Like, Nevada goes from losing to San Jose State to beating, Utah State and New Mexico, and Grand Canyon has 3-0 against the top two teams, but like 6 or 7 losses against everybody else. So, I mean, who knows what team's going to show up there and what team's not, right? So we'll worry about that stuff later. But massive credit to Nevada, staying the course, not getting too low, not pressing when you're down. They make shots. And the thing is, from a philosophical standpoint, right? Where's Nevada? Where's New Mexico's points coming from, right? And this was pretty evident down a stretch here. It was a lot of one-on-one for Hall, and even though he's the master of like a head fake, shot fake, crafty with the ball, he's not going to go by a lot of guys one-on-one. Okay, now Albury can, but nobody else really is. And, Albury really only does that when he's in the open floor, right? Off of a rebound or in a fast break or whatever it is, okay? Nevada's got guys, and we're critical of their guard play at times, but guys like Camper, he can go by and get to the rim like the GCU guys can, like Williams and Henley, and sometimes Aztec guys can, and Foslev and Collins. Like the Lobos lack that guy. They don't have that guy. And that's your easiest way in crunch time to get buckets. Because let's face it, like teams, well-coached teams, aren't going to let Jake Hall open for 3. Hall's going to have to make ridiculously tough shots. And he had the one that he got late was like a ridiculously difficult, like step back fadeaway in the paint, completely contested, and it was short. It's a tough shot, right? Because there's just not a lot else going on. They don't have a creator in the half court. They don't. And that was a difference tonight in the last 5 minutes, because Nevada, they made some of those drives and found a seam and made tough shots. And that's what the game is sometimes. All right, let me get to some of the rest of these. Tough loss. Lobos more just became that thin. Yeah, it's like that thin. Fouls, missed layups, all shot us in the end. Yeah. I mean, that's a good summary. Good game, Nevada, says JNR. I think San Diego State loses the rest of the games. Underachieving this year, no chemistry. Season is over. Packing it in for the Aztecs, is JNR. As I said this the other night. They've already lost 2 in a row. They're not going to lose 5 in a row. I know their next 3 games are tough. They're not going to lose all 5 of those. That they're too good they have too many players. They'll win one of those by accident. I don't know which one it will be, but I think they will. If Lobos don't make the NCAA tournament this year, and that loss to Nevada certainly hurts their chances, you think, yeah, well, that's the one silver lining to take out of this, is that his name will cool off a bit if they don't make the NCAA tournament. Okay, people still know about him, but the other part of it is there will be some other shiny object that gets in and wins a game as an upset, and he'll get people knocking on his door. I don't think you're completely out of the woods, but yes, if you don't make it, I think your chances of retaining him go up probably twofold, right? Maybe it's from 40% to 80 or 50%. I don't know, whatever. It's certainly a lot higher than it would be if you would make the tournament. I agree with that. Pac-Fan Weems, MVP tonight, shut down Jay Call. Yeah, I just kind of said that a minute ago. Tough sledding for Hall tonight, right? You didn't see a lot of open looks for him, right? He made some tough shots because he's a shooter and he knows how to play the game. But like Alford, again, I've said this before, the guy's coached millions of games, right? Like he knows what he's doing. He's going to put a longer defender with length. That would have been like Trey Coleman last year before he got all wonky and got tossed or whatever happened. And this year it's Weems, and it's a guy with length that's going to bother Hall and make it difficult for him. And if he can make 8 shots with a hand in his face, you tip your cap to him. And he wasn't able to do it tonight. He didn't have enough help for Hall, and that there's your result. Okay, Hall's okay. So see, you can identify this. I'm watching too many things to realize that. Yeah, a lot of his points were when Weems was on the bench, and he shut Falstaff down on Saturday. So there you go. Good job by Weems. Mike says, because I asked this before, Nevada's final 3 games at UNLV, at Wyoming, and versus Air Force. Yeah, I mean, certain opportunity there, Mike, to go 3-0, right? And then you definitely lock yourselves in the 4 seed, and certainly could even be the 3 seed. I keep saying 4. I don't know who would have the tiebreaker between Nevada and New Mexico. I guess it would depend. So Nevada, it may be Nevada. If New Mexico would beat San Diego State and lose to Utah State, they would finish 14-6. Nevada wins out, they finish 14-6. And if Utah State wins the league, well, I guess it would come down to who wins the league then. Since Nevada would have a win over Utah State and New Mexico doesn't, if I'm remembering stuff right, Nevada would win the tiebreaker because they have a win over a higher seeded team. And so Nevada will be the 3, New Mexico will be the 4. If San Diego State would win the league, it would flip. So Nevada would root for Utah State. New Mexico would root for San Diego State. Okay. And I mean, that's the fact. Yeah, the power conferences we'll see what happens this year. I see a lot of the bracketologists have teams like New Mexico, and I'm interested to see what happens with them. This loss doesn't hurt too much in the grand scheme of things because it's a quad 1 game, so it's not a bad loss, but it's a loss. So they may slip from people's last 4 in to first 4 out. And the key thing is, you add another loss to it then, whether it's Saturday or next Saturday. I mean, that's when it really starts to matter. Okay, I am about the conference time bar, 100%. Nevada winning the conference tourney. Colton, I thought a week ago that I didn't fancy their chances because I don't think they're consistent enough offensively. Like, see the first half tonight. But I don't know, right? Because nobody really at this point seems to be playing All right. Is anybody back? Yeah. I think I had my internet went out for a minute. Is anybody back here with me or no? Give me anybody here? Yeah, my internet did fall asleep. Is anybody? Do you see me back? Is anybody in here? Yeah. Okay. All right. My freaking internet went out. It is 2:25. I don't know if maybe they did like a reboot in the middle of the night. Let me get caught up here. So I'm sure I lost some people. I apologize for that. Imagine me looking down there on a computer and seeing that damn globe down there instead of that Wi-Fi signal. Anyway, wild. So I lost my train of thought because I got all distracted there. But yeah, the conference tournament is wide open. So New Mexico, San Diego State is a play-in game, Matt. Absolutely, yeah. Like I think the loser of that game is pretty much cooked, right? Like we have, I'd say close to a 0% chance of a play-in of 3 bids at this point, right? So whoever loses that game, their goose is cooked, and frankly, it deserves to be cooked. They're just taking on too many losses. Just taking on too many losses for teams that didn't rack up massive wins in the non-con, right? Like San Diego State had the Houston win last year. They don't have anything close to that this year. New Mexico had some nice ones last year. Their win at VCU is okay. Their win at Santa Clara is okay. But those teams are bubble teams. And so we just don't have the stuff we had the last 2 years. And so you keep taking on these losses, and then you add another one there, and then another one in the conference tournament. Yeah, it's an elimination game, 100%. There's no doubt about it. And I agree with this 100%. When college basketball is the best, when the conference games are exciting and meaningful, you don't like the power super conferences, focus less on rivalries and more on postseason play. I've said this for a long time, my friend, that like college basketball, and the one bracket guy, T3, sent a tweet out about this either last night or this morning, and a lot of people saw it. Like college basketball is about more than just making March Madness. Do we want to make March Madness? Yes. But if you listen to me on here or on my pod at any point over the last 3 years, like everything is centered around it, and like they can't wait to start talking bubble. Like the minute that the calendar hits January, even in November, December, like these talking points about good for your resume. Like just let the games play out, okay? Like I get it, you need to mention it a little bit, but let's focus on why the game's playing out the way it's playing out, and why Team A might be struggling or Team B's on fire or whatever it is, okay? And worry about that stuff later, okay? It's like such the clickbait nonsense that people need for engagement and stuff. Just let the games play out, okay? Like, yeah, we want to get in the tournament, but man, like play the games. Exactly. I love the tournament more than anybody. I said it before. You know, my dad used to take me out when I was like 11 or 12. I didn't have to go to school, so I'd go watch the games. You're like, I've been doing it for years. But man, like I'm up to 2:30. I'm going to sleep 3.5 hours tonight, right? Because I want to watch the games. I love watching the games, breaking them down, talking to you guys about it, getting questions and comments, dealing with internet issues and like that's the stuff that I enjoy. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy the tournament, but man, like yeah, we haven't. Was this one the nail biter of all nail biters? No, but we've had plenty of them this year like that, and that's the stuff that I love. Yeah, well, certainly, Tim. That's going to be an issue in about 2 months, right? Because the recruiting that he was doing at UCSD is not going to fly here. Okay. Well, I will also say this though. He could probably get away with it a little bit next year and moving forward if the sole goal is to win the conference tournament. But knowing Lobo fans, and I don't blame you, like with your support, NIL, resources, etc., the goal should be to be a little bit higher. He's a very good tactician. He seems to have a very good pulse about how to run a program and all of that stuff. But he needs to if he doesn't want to do it or excel at it, he needs to get somebody's bench that will be that ace recruiter, right? I don't know the ins and outs of people out there or other conferences who might be that guy, but there's got to be guys out there that will take that on for a program that has NIL. I know it's not Texas Tech or Kansas NIL, but it's still NIL, okay? Better than the rest of the league. Far better than what the rest of the league will be next year. And so you can't bring a roster like this into to conference play into your regular season next year. You can't do it. Okay, it doesn't matter like how good of a coach you are, because eventually you're going to take losses on, like tonight, like the Boise loss, like some of the others, and it's going to be like, well, if you got another dude, you got another Jimmy, you got another Joe, we don't have this problem, because then you can sit Chol, or you can sit this guy, or you can sit Bouillon, or whatever you want to do. But you can't do that now because you don't have enough dudes. So, yeah, he's got to get dudes. That's all there is to it. Yeah, Hare, no doubt about it. Price, he's just a dude, right? Like I've said, Camper should be a first-team all-conference guy, and he probably will be. Price isn't far behind, and he deserves second-team honors, to be honest. He really does. Credit to Alford, and the team could have given up after San Jose State. Absolutely. I wouldn't have been surprised one bit had they done that. Olin allowed Rock to guard Price for far too long, change the game. It's a shame that a quad one road loss will keep him out of the tourney. It may, but again, like you added on to others, Jared. It's just like, if you win that home game against Boise, you get swept by Boise. Like that can't happen. Like this isn't Boise from the last 3 years. It's a Boise team. Their net is good, and their Ken Palm's good, but they're not near the bubble. And so, you can't get swept. You can't get swept by them, and then add this on top. If you win that game against Boise at home, this doesn't hurt as much. But you didn't, and so this is where we are. Tough loss for the Lobos. Still three games to be in the top three. They do, but they're gonna have to win 2 of them, and that's not gonna be easy. Lobos, no interior defense. Yeah, I said that from the start of the year. Like Rock, he's been making his shots lately, and I'd like to see him get more minutes, but he's not going to wall up and be an interior presence in there like a Tyron Jones from UNLV, right? They're a player short because Patton went AWOL. Okay, well, yeah, talked about Hal plenty, and he would be a guy in there, even though he doesn't add much offensively. But Patton, yeah, he could have been a guy that you were counting on, and maybe that's a miss on Olin's part, where they just didn't mesh, right? I think that's one of those things that people don't really want to talk about, that maybe it was a clash in personalities. Well, then that's kind of on Olin, as he's the one who brought him in, right? So that's kind of on you. There you go. Tim added it up for me. He is 20. I knew he certainly hasn't had any double-figure games, so he's had 20 since the 30-piece against Boise. So, I mean, that's just need more, especially when Chol goes AWOL. So Olin says what I say, that the roster needs to be better than the sum of the parts. Well, it was for a while. We haven't seen that the past 2 weeks. That's it. And that's why you flattened out here, okay? Lobos blew it, says Nick. Yeah, they did. They did. I mean, they've had it in front of them. Good, clean win for Boise. Absolutely, Steinbauer. Weems went out with 3 fouls. Hall went off to give him the lead. He comes back and shuts him down. Yeah, it's that simple sometimes. Credit Alford, credit Weems. Varg says UNM. Yeah, absolutely. You should feel like you're coming for the 3 seed. The schedule 100% plays out in your favor. The odds are probably 50-50 that you're going to end up tied. Now, you could finish a game ahead or a game behind, but odds are you'll finish tied, which means it's going to go to tiebreaker. You split head-to-head, and I think the next tiebreaker is record against the teams then in descending order. So whoever wins, as I said before, if it's Utah State, you'll get the tiebreaker unless New Mexico beats them, but then in all likelihood they're going to finish ahead of you anyway. So you need New Mexico to lose to Utah State, and you need Utah State to win the regular season title. 6 says you're late, but RJ Keene is king. Yeah, he had massive numbers tonight. I talked about that with his rebounds and assists. Sick, absolutely. Yeah, Jared, I said that. You probably beat me to it because I'm behind on the comments, but 4 seed, that would be a disaster for New Mexico. So you don't want to play Grand Canyon again, followed by Utah State. Yeah, I mean, I think you match up well with GCU. On the flip side of the coin, it's definitely difficult to beat a good team 3 times. Drew knows how to win in the postseason. But look, you have to play somebody difficult, although I guess if you're the 3 seed, you get a little bit weaker opponent. You're right about that. And then, yeah, certainly following that up with Utah State in all likelihood is no picnic. Yeah, Nick, I actually thought Allberry was good tonight. I didn't realize he had 5 turnovers, but nobody else was doing anything. And when you guys were struggling for offense in the half court, he kind of was under control, sometimes on the extended secondary fast break, sometimes out of nothing in the half court. shot 5 for 7. Yes, 5 turnovers is too much, but nobody else is doing a damn thing offensively. You're less athletic and skilled than, yeah, absolutely you are. I mean, that's been the issue all year. Yeah, Raynard can't wait for the tournament. Absolutely. Price stepped it up. Yep. The snow did not. The snow is almost melted. Yeah, the stream was messed up sick. Pac-Fan, my internet company, I'm going to have to call them and yell at them. I did get back. We back. Yeah, I'm back. Everybody's here. Appreciate you. Oh, the audio is loud. Did I turn it up? My bad. That's weird. Anyway, no problem. I appreciate you guys staying with me here. I know it's 12:30 out there for many of you, and maybe even 11:30 for some, which is plenty late. Good morning. It is good morning. Here to Bird soon. Yeah, sick. It's looking like a one big league more likely. I mean, I still think even if, let's just say New Mexico and San Diego State lose out and everybody's out of the at-large conversation, that still requires Utah State to win or I'm assuming, I keep saying Utah State, I assume it's going to be Utah State, could be San Diego State. That still requires either one of those, whoever wins the regular season, to win the conference tournament too. And that's not going to be easy. Okay, it's not going to be easy. So I put those odds at less than 50-50. So that's why I still think we have a 60% shot to get 2 bids. But if we don't, we don't. We'll see. So Boise started the weirdness. They did. They started the weirdness on opening night when they lost to Hawaii Pacific, and they kickstarted that awful run of that first week where we took the worst loss in the country 4 nights out of 5, UNLV, and then I don't even remember who else it was, but it was brutal. Yeah, I am missing sleep. Assuming Olin isn't at UCLA next season. Yeah, we'll see what Cronin decides to do. Cronin to Cincinnati has certainly picked up some steam lately. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. GCU fell off a cliff. They're inconsistent. But we've seen teams like that get hot and win 4 games in 4 days in other conferences. So 6 still thinks Boise's much better than they've shown, capable of beating anyone or losing anyone. They are. Much like everybody else, I don't know if they're consistent enough to win 4 games, but who is at this point, right? Sick wants no part of GCU in the conference tournament. Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, Larry, you should be hoping this is Olin's weakest roster. It's got to be. I mean, I don't know. Again, this is where you need assistance. You need a staff to help you. You need your assistants to help you. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Jared still thinks the Lobos can win the conference tournament. Going to be a packed Pit West. I believe it. I mean, it's going to be packed, and they could win it. They could win it for sure. It might not match up well with Utah State, but you might not play Utah State. If you're the 3 seed, Utah State may lose in the semifinals. Who knows, right? Yeah, do you like Wawa? Do you like Wawa? Do you not have you guys have Wawa out there? Wawa's incredible. They built a monster here on the East Coast. So, yeah. Tomorrow, GCU and UNLV, revenge game for the Lopes. We'll see where they're at because this is a game that you expect UNLV now to bounce back, right? They laid an egg at home on, I guess it was Saturday, right? They laid an egg at home Saturday night, losing to CSU. Now, CSU's been playing good, but, oh, wait, was that their last game? Man, I'm all out of it now. They lost it, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no, CSU beat San Diego State. That was during the week when CSU beat UNLV. I don't remember what did UNLV do over the weekend? Somebody help me out here. I'm out of sorts. Oh, never mind. They drilled Air Force. But anyway, this is a game that UNLV shows up for, right? It's a road game. Nobody gives them a chance. They'll relish the crowd there at GCU, the environment. They never get to play in front of that. That's one of those where they'll show up and play, right? And they'll think it's the greatest thing ever. And if the Lopes aren't hitting shots, who knows what could happen. Gibbs Lawhorn be the best player on the floor. If he can stay out of foul trouble, we'll see. So I wouldn't be surprised at anything right there. Grand Canyon needs to watch it or they're going to slip way down the order. And if they lose this game, they're in jeopardy of falling behind UNLV because the Rebels will have the tiebreaker over them, in fact. Although I don't think GCU's schedule is too tough after tomorrow, but we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I agree, Mike. No excuse for Nevada to lose the San Jose State game. There's just not, especially when you see how they played the last 2 games. But then the big one tomorrow night, Utah State heading to Viejas. both off of losses. Aztecs off of a 2-loss week. So what do we get? There was a pretty funny press conference clip from Reese Waters, I guess, where he said that the last few years the Aztecs have run the conference since he's been there. They, in fact, have not run the conference since he's been there. They haven't won it the last 3 years, counting this year. They're 0 for the last 4 in terms of regular season titles, of conference championships, 2 regular season, 2 conference. Their last one was their year a few years ago when, I guess that was their Final Four year, right? 2023. That was the last year they won. They swept the 2 tournament. They swept the regular season and a conference tournament, go to the Final Four. That was the last time they won a basketball championship. And if they don't win tomorrow night, they're not going to get it in the regular season either this year. So, are they the most consistent program over the last 15 years? Yeah, 100%. Utah State hasn't been in a conference for that long, right? Probably, a dozen years, maybe a little bit more. And San Diego State's been the best program for much of the last 2 decades in the conference, with New Mexico, their main rival, for a large part of that, okay? But the facts are what they are. In the last 2 years, 3 counting this year, they've not been the best program, okay? Yes, they made the Sweet 16 2 years ago when we got 6 bids and nobody else did, okay? They deserve credit for that. They somehow got a 4 or 5 seed and played a 12 seed and a 13 seed. Now, look, you play who's in front of you, and all those teams are good, but, that was fortuitous on their behalf, right? They have not been good the last 2 years up to their standards, okay? I know they're 12-4 right now, but, they've underachieved to this point. They have, okay? So we'll see what they're at, where they're at tomorrow. We'll see what they have, where they're at. You saw somebody in here earlier, I think it was an Aztec fan, say they're just not connected right now. They're not bought in. They're not buying in. They're not all on board, whatever it is. Individual agendas, maybe, don't know, but it's not a good situation. Now, I do think they'll get up for tomorrow's game. I said for 3 weeks now, I think they'll win that game. And that was before everything that happened last week. You got an angry Aggie team. They felt like they let one get away on Saturday, collapsed the last 6 minutes. They've won in the pit. They won in Viejas last year. They're not going to be scared, right? They're not going to be intimidated. Calhoun won in there in his first try last year. Several of these players were key. And the Aztecs don't seem to be playing very confident right now. I have no idea what Glass status is. Is Harrington 100%? Don't know. So, man, tough call. Now, if the Aztecs win the game, it's game on for the conference title. It's game on. But, man, what a week for the Aztecs. Home Utah State, and then in the pit on Saturday. And that's a quick turnaround. Wednesday night and early Saturday afternoon. If they pull that double off, they deserve to be in the NCAA tournament conversation ahead of anybody else almost in the conference. Like probably slightly below Utah State, okay? But that will be another loss for Utah State then, okay? So they got to be careful here. This wouldn't be a bad loss tomorrow. It's going to be a quad 1 loss. But if they lose this game, they better be clean the rest of the regular season. I'm telling you, okay? Because as somebody said earlier, the committee members, they're not looking to do the Mountain West Conference any favors. They're not. I know we've gotten teams in the first 4. I think, is it 4 years in a row? San Diego State last year. 2 years ago, it was Boise. 3 years ago, it was Nevada. And 4 years ago, it was Wyoming. So 4 years in a row, we've had a team in the first 4. I would take that at this point. Obviously, I'd rather have them get in the main field, but I would take a team in the first 4 at this point because at least they're in. We get to watch them on a Tuesday or Wednesday when it's the only game going. I would take that at this point. Sign me up for that. But we got to win some games with our top teams here, and it hasn't happened as much over the last couple of years. All right, let me run through a couple more of these, then I'm going to get out of here. It's 2:45. What does Armo Trading's being back on the court mean down the stretch? Look, gives him another big in there. He was okay tonight. He had an impact for sure, and it allows Alford some versatility with his lineups, right? Does he want to go small and play Price at the 5? Does he want to go big and play Price at the 4? How does he want to match up, right, depending on the opponent? Does he want to force the opponent's hand on how they're going to defend Price? Like, Price is a load to guard. you don't have to really worry about guarding armor trading. And they can throw lobs to him like they did tonight if the defense falls asleep, and that'll work. You're not going to run sets for armor trading. Price, he's a threat. He hit a 3 tonight, hit a couple of foul line jumpers, that for whatever reason were far too open for my liking. Made his free throws. He's a load in the paint. He's just a beast. So that's the key for armor trading. It gives you versatility with Price. Because when armor trading was out, then you're relying on the freshman. And I like the way that White was playing, but not really Coleman, right? And Crowley seemed to have fallen out of favor. I thought he showed flashes in December, but obviously Alford doesn't really have a lot of faith in those guys at this point. So it gives you a versatility in your lineup, and I like that. Any team in the top 7 can win a tournament. You're making your reservations. Good job, Raynard. Very good job. Any team can win it, 100%. So, look, not a great night for the Lobos. Great night for the Pack. The other favorites got it done. Air Force almost, not quite. Good job by Boise. Good rally by CSU. Hope Collins is all right. Huge game tomorrow night in Viejas. Huge game in the Pit on Saturday. A lot to play for still. Seeding, at large, regular season championship, all that stuff. Okay, sorry for the cutoff there with the internet. I'm going to scold my internet company. Appreciate you guys coming back, even if it was just for the last 10 minutes or whatever it was. Haven't given Sun Cruiser a shout in a while, so let's talk about Sun Cruiser. Appreciate them being along for the ride here. And please, if you have not already done so, go subscribe to the show on the bottom right there. It says it at Mountain West BNN. Free subscription at Mountain West BNN. I do need some rest, Steinbauer. At Mountain West BNN, right down at the bottom. Just click on it. Doesn't cost you anything. All that good stuff. Okay, so tomorrow night, they're different channels, but they're staggered 9 and 11, so that's good. We can watch each game once. GCU, UNLV, I think, is on CBS, and then the Utah State San Diego State game on FS1. So 9 and 11 Eastern, so 7 and 9 Mountain. So you know what that means. That means 11:15 or 9:15, and then so it probably won't be over till 1:30, much like tonight. And we'll be in here late night to talk about it. Only 2 games, so it won't go as long in theory. But we'll see if we can get anybody on. If not, you guys will carry the show with your comments like you did tonight. Appreciate you all being here. I am going to get some rest. Thank you guys. Come back tomorrow night here on another night in the Mountain West. Appreciate you all. See you then.
Get ready for the time of your life at Circa Resort and Casino, Las Vegas's newest destination for fun, featuring the world's biggest poolside tailgate party with 3 levels of action, 6 pools, and a 143-foot screen. The fun is always on deck with all the games all year long. Stadium Swim, located in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Book the time of your life today at CircaLasVegas.com.